Hello and welcome to the show of Sharing Vietnam on VTC10 NetViet channel. International education entered Vietnam for over 10 years in response to the demand of high-quality international education of parents and students in Vietnam. After years of developing in this country, they have educated generations of both Vietnamese and foreign students who live in this country. To the society, these foreign institutes seem quietly isolated, and our audiences may need to discover more. That's the reasons why we invited a professional specialist in this field who has been joining in international education in Vietnam for 10 years to have a talk with me today about this topic. And welcome to the show, Mr. Chris Jeffrey, Chief Academic Officer of British Vietnamese University. And thank you for joining the show today.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here and to join you again today.
First of all, could you please share some general information about international education in Vietnam? Do you have any comments about its developments?
Well, I think international education in Vietnam, there are lots of different varieties, so it's a complex situation. You have international education, which is literally the British qualification in Britain's case, here in Vietnam. But also you have the growth in the dual education, where students study for the Vietnamese qualification as well as for the international education. So there are lots of different options. And what's amazing about Vietnam is you can study from kindergarten all the way through to PhD and achieve real international qualifications, but not having left Vietnam.
In comparison with the popular types of schools in Vietnam, what are the differences that make international schools stand out?
I think it's partly about student numbers, so you have fewer students per teacher. It's about the environment, but also it's about the other skills that you learn. And I think that's one of the key things. A British education and international education is really about the skill set as well as the knowledge. It's not just about learning the subject, it's how to apply it, it's critical thinking.
And what are the challenges that you have been facing from the beginning of establishment to the current days?
Well, I think in terms of establishment, it is complicated. But then education is so important. It's important for future of the country and for students and their families. But when you're going through the process, it can feel as though it's a long, drawn-out process. I always say to colleagues that I got my grey hair in Britain in education, not in Vietnam. So in terms of the operating and process, it's quite clear and actually isn't, it's stable, which is great. So it's not changing every day, it's not changing every week. It's established and it's stable. So I think that's a very big positive for investors in international education.
Is it correct to say that international schools usually get funds from foreign investors? And if yes, could you share some information about this point?
Well, I think they can do. I mean, you can have totally Vietnamese international schools, but you can also have joint ventures, you can have international investors. And that is depending on where you are, the model of investment and so forth. So each can operate. I think the one issue would be that for a totally 100% invested international school, there are restrictions in the numbers of Vietnamese students you can register. So that is a decision that is affecting whether people invest or not here in Vietnam within the education sector. Also, one of the things is the cost of investment. So being prepared for your building, your staff, for the eventual size rather than your start size. And that again is something which investors and educationalists need to consider in making a decision whether Vietnam is a suitable place to start a school.
And what are the opportunities and challenges that the international investors should be aware before they invest into education in Vietnam?
Well, I think the opportunities are amazing. Vietnam values education so much. Vietnamese parents value education and are very happy to invest in good quality education. Quality is the key. So I think that's a fantastic thing for investors and schools and universities. I think one of the issues is about the long drawn out process, and it takes time. So that's one of the challenges, because if you're comparing investment in education, some countries move quicker, and therefore do you want to spend a period of time trying to get the license to enable you to open, or do you want to start and educate? So that's one of the considerations. The challenges are, it's a foreign country, so it's about adopting an international model in another country, and how you adapt, because obviously Vietnamese students learn in a different way. They're very much more advanced in terms of technology than many students, and I think that is a challenge but also an opportunity. It used to be language being a challenge, but nowadays I'm always amazed by the level of English. A Vietnamese colleague of mine, his daughter is 12 now, sorry, and her level of English would beat most university students in the UK. So language is becoming much less of a barrier for entry to the market.
What are the impacts that international education may cause in a country?
It can have a positive and a negative impact. I think one of the things that's necessary is for people to remember where they're studying, that the culture, the history, the way the country operates is as important. So it's not just about learning how other people learn. It's not just about learning subjects that other people learn. It's about really understanding how it fits in context here in Vietnam as well, how both can come together. You can actually be prepared to work in Vietnam, you can be prepared to work globally.
And how to let students understand and live culturally with their original culture while they are learning in international environments?
I think that's very important, because it's about learning the international mindset, but relating it to Vietnam, relating it to their culture. I don't think anybody would like to lose your culture, and people should be proud of their culture and their heritage and their history. So I think it's about ensuring that students learn the culture, experience the culture. And the other thing, very quickly, is about, you've got to be here in Vietnam to understand Vietnam. Even if you're a Vietnamese student abroad, the country is moving so fast that unless you keep coming back and experiencing it, you're missing out on one of the fastest developing economies in the world, one of the most exciting economies in the world.
In this part of the show, I will ask you some questions to learn your opinions about education. Some people think that the students in these schools seem to be very unique and maybe isolated from the other parts of the society. And what is your point of view?
It can happen, but I think schools place a great emphasis on ensuring or trying to ensure that that doesn't happen. Education and international education is a great advantage, but it's really what you do with that advantage. It's how you apply it. And good schools ensure that people don't ignore. Okay, they don't turn their back on, they don't forget that they are part of a country. And no matter what school you go to, whether you go to the best Vietnamese school or an international school, you're still part of Vietnam and you play a role in the success of the country, and you need to contribute to the future of Vietnam and ensure that everyone is included in the development of the country and the progress.
Should education be consistent for all students in the country in order to build a firm foundation for society?
You need to cover the key fundamentals, but none of us are the same. I am a useless artist, so making me study art until I'm 17 or 18 is a waste of time. So everyone has different skill sets. So I think the key thing is the fundamental foundation is what's important. And then over time, students can develop their own personality, their own understanding, their own way of implementing knowledge. So I think we don't all want to be the same. And that really drives into the Vietnamese government's policy, adapting and preparing for 4IR. We're not after people to really...
Do you think there will be a gap or even a big gap between people who are internationally educated and people who don't?
There could be, yes. But part of it is, as you grow up, you have to realise that you're part of a system. If you have great opportunity, you need to give back. And that will be in different ways. So I think as long as people understand that they are part of a country, the country does not operate with one person, it operates with everyone. It's a bit like teams. So if you have a team, you need different skill sets, and the team comes together and develops and produces something which is fantastic. So it's about adapting those different skill sets, okay, the different level of education, and bringing all that together to really push the impact on the country. I personally believe it's very helpful. I think it supports countries' development.
Do you think there will be a gap or even a big gap between people to people when they have not been educated in the same system?
I don't think it's a one side or the other. It's about bringing it together. So I think it's about really creating a model that takes the best of everything and brings it together. It's not cut and paste. It's not British education as would be studied in the UK. It's British education studied in Vietnam by Vietnamese students. And I think that's the key thing, that it's not one size fits all. I don't think it's a one side or the other. It's about bringing it together. So I think it's about really creating a model that takes the best of everything and brings it together. It's not cut and paste. It's not British education as would be studied in the UK. It's British education studied in Vietnam by Vietnamese students. And I think that's the key thing, that it's not one size fits all.
We had a great talk today, and once again, thank you for your time to join the show with us today, and wish you health and happiness. Goodbye.
My pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
And this is also the end of Sharing Vietnam today. Thank you for following. Goodbye and see you next time.